Morning, Vol fans, and welcome into Tennessee Football Talk. My name is Joey Petersen. Coming up on today's show, the huge news keeps on rolling in for the Tennessee Vols. Some good news, mostly good, but also some bad news to discuss. Real quickly, before we get into the content, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We are 41 subs away from tying the lead, 42 subs away from taking the lead on Ohio State and Alabama in our transfer portal sub battle. We're second place right now. We're a first place fan base. So help me out with that sub button. Starting off on today's news, the Tennessee Volunteers have been predicted to land a pretty, I don't want to say top of the line, but a pretty exciting offensive line prospect out of West Virginia. That is Donovan Haslam. Pete Nakos was the one who had the prediction earlier today, saying sources tell on 3 that Tennessee is trending to land the offensive lineman. I've logged a prediction in favor of the Vols landing Haslam. And this is pretty huge news in two senses. Number one, always want to add on the offensive line. The second part of this being huge news is this dude is 6'4" and 330 pounds. That is massive for an interior offensive lineman. Like, that's even massive when you talk about NFL standards for being a guard in the sport of football. He played left guard primarily, saw some snaps at right guard and left tackle at West Virginia this past year. 444 snaps in total. Before he was at West Virginia, he was in Clarksville, Tennessee, playing for the Govs at Austin Peay for 3 seasons. Then made his way over to West Virginia, now looking his way to make it back down to the Volunteer State and play for the Tennessee Volunteers. He was in Knoxville yesterday. His visit apparently went really, really well. And it was really cool because he was asked what he brings to the table coming to Tennessee as an offensive lineman. He said, I feel like I can bring just being a dominant run blocker and pass blocker, just imposing my will on people and moving people so my running backs can do what they do. My QBs can be good quarterbacks. I got some SEC schools trying to set up a visit, but I don't know if I'm going to make it to them. Absolutely love the way he ended that quote right there. Does not know if he's going to make it to any of his other SEC visits because he loved his time in Knoxville. And look, when it comes to the transfer portal and when it comes to this position group, when it comes to the trenches, give me as many good offensive linemen as possible. Give me as many just offensive alignment as possible. You might be saying, Joey, there's bigger needs on this roster, and I would agree with you, but I'm never going to be upset about adding on the offensive line, especially because in the SEC, as we all know, and just in football in general, this game is won and lost in the trenches. That's why the SEC schools like Georgia and Alabama, who have been at the very top of the conference over the last couple of decades, they've dominated the sport in the trenches. And also, like, look, you got George MacIntyre most likely trending to be your starting quarterback next season. I need to keep him as protected as possible for multiple reasons. He's going to be a first-year starter, right? A lot of times, first-year guys can get a little bit jittery in the pocket, and having good protection around them is going to help this offense operate. Number 2, his size. Now, I'm not worried about his stature and his lack of weight on him and his ability to play the quarterback position. Doesn't worry me at all. What it does worry me is he going to last an entire 12-game season, 9-game SEC season, taking hit after hit after hit after hit in that frame? Now, I'm confident he's going to add a little bit more weight before the start of the year, but I digress. That's why it's important to get offensive linemen in Knoxville that you feel can protect George MacIntyre. The portal is closing today. Now, you don't need to be committed to your new school by today, but you need to be entered. That means we're coming to a close of transfer portal season. Grade Josh Heupel so far in the portal, A, B, C, D, or F. We talked good news. We got a little bit more good news, but also some bad news when it comes to the quarterback position. Let's start with the bad news. The quarterback position has been a very, up and down thing over the last couple of weeks. And Austin Peay confirmed that Tennessee still does not have a quarterback set up to visit. Now, regardless if you believe in George MacIntyre or Faizon Brandon or not, we know that you need to add another quarterback on this roster. And that's kind of why, this is very, very frustrating to me. We don't have a guy set up on a visit. You struck out on Sam Levitt. What was it, Tuesday, Gage? Tuesday, maybe even Monday. You struck out on Sam Levitt. Bo Perbula then also committed to Virginia. You still have not set up a visit at the quarterback position. So initially, that's frustrating. Then Chris Lowe said something, and maybe it gives you a little bit of reason why. Chris Lowe said industry sources say multiple established quarterbacks will go into the portal before it closes. Now, they don't have much more time. It does close in about, 15 hours? Regardless, this is really exciting news. And this is why maybe there have been no visits set up for the quarterback position. Maybe Josh Heupel or some other people on Tennessee's staff, some third-party guys. I'm not going to say Josh Heupel knows this, but maybe there's been some intel shared that, hey, this guy's going to enter the transfer portal. And again, no shade on George MacIntyre or Faizon Brandon. I get it, and I have accepted the fact that this staff is at least comfortable enough to roll with them, GMAC, as a starting quarterback for 2026. And for all I know, he could have an unbelievable year. Very highly rated kid coming out of high school. He's got all the arm talent in the world. I've got confidence in him if he's the guy going forward. But also, like I said, you need that third guy on the roster. Tennessee will not go in football season with just 2 QBs on the depth chart. That would be the dumbest thing in the world. That's why originally I was upset when I heard we had no visits, but after that, hearing that from Chris Lowe, maybe that's why. A name to keep an eye on is Connor Wegman. Now, I will tell you this. He's at Houston. He's a Houston kid. Played his first years of college ball at A&M, then transferred to the Cougars after his starting spot got taken over by Marcel Reed. He actually had a really good season at Houston this past year. Now, again, playing against Big 12 competition day in and day out. I like what he can do with his legs. I think he's got a pretty decent arm as well. A little bit of a resurgence for him this last year for the Cougars. So maybe that's a guy that Tennessee might take a look at and might believe he could enter the transfer portal. Also, a guy who has already entered the transfer portal, that is Parker Navarro from Ohio. He spent his last 2 seasons there, was initially a really highly rated recruit coming out of high school. He's got over 60 touchdowns on his career, 30 through the air, 30 on the ground. And I tell you to keep an eye on him because he signed with UCF back in the 2020 class, and Josh Heupel was the one who recruited him. Okay? That's why Navarro is a guy that I would not be surprised if he ends up being the pick for the Vols. Look, we'll have to wait and see if anything ends up happening with the quarterback position, not necessarily with Navarro, but with some established QBs around the league. Like Chris Lowe said, if they end up enter the transfer portal, because today is that final day. Who do you think is the starter? Faizon Brandon, George MacIntyre, or other? FB, GM, or O? If I'm you, I'm probably typing my GMs down below because I think it will ultimately be GM. We got more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. But if you do go somewhere, go to the App Store, download the PrizePicks app, use our code CLNS. $50 in lineups. All you got to do is play your first $5 lineup. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard, but in life and on PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and PrizePicks lets you take control. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. With a new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Here's my lineup for this weekend's games. I'm going to take the more on Josh Allen, half a rushing touchdown, and the more on Puka Nacua for half a receiving touchdown against Chicago. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Link to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, we've already talked about the huge news of possibly landing an offensive lineman. Vols are turning that way. The huge news of maybe some more quarterback options coming down the pike for the Vols. Last up, let's talk about Danny White's statement. So Danny White went on the Mike Keith show yesterday. Shout out Mike Keith. Absolutely love that dude. Adam Sparks tweeted out late last night a statement that was said by Danny White during his time with Mike Keith. He said, I know what others are doing. We're going to have rules. Then we need people to follow them. Talking about schools breaking the rules to land premier players in the transfer portal. Look, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. First off, I get it. He's an athletic director. He's not just going to come out here and condone cheating. He's not just going to come out there and say that Tennessee is a school that does tamper or should tamper. But I believe that this is a big reason why many people feel like Tennessee is falling behind in the transfer portal. Like, guys, I get it. This is a class that I'm actually decently excited about. And I think you should be excited about them as well. But we also got to think of the fact that, like, if you did not land Jim Knowles as your defensive coordinator, I don't think you would have just fallen ass backwards into 4 players from Penn State that just wanted to follow their defensive coordinator. Now, all credit to Josh Heupel and Jim Knowles and company for ending up landing those guys. But still, like, I'm going to put it into perspective. Indiana had 13 visits set up for January 3rd. The transfer portal opened up on January 2nd. I promise you, they did not set up all of those visits at the end of the day on January 2nd to get all those guys on campus on January 3rd. That was work done behind the scenes weeks leading up into that day. They are absolutely crushing it in the transfer portal, and they're in the middle of a national championship run. Like, look, Danny, everybody's doing it. Don't just handcuff yourself by following the rules. Like, go out and I'm not, like, it's such a weird spot to be in because, like, you don't want to just go out and say, hey, look, this team needs to tamper. But you also got to see the fact that you're falling behind because every other team is doing it. Okay? And I get it. What a lot of people are probably going to say down below. What my mom would have said to me when I was a kid. Hey, just because, you know, if this person did this, does that mean you would do that as well? You know, say Billy goes skydiving. Does that mean you should go skydiving without a parachute? Like, I get what you guys are all feeling and believing right now, but if you feel like Tennessee's behind in the transfer portal, this is why. Because they're not doing work prior to it. And I think it's a little frustrating. What are your thoughts on Danny White? Let me know down below in the comment section. Open-ended. This is, vent as much as you want. We're going to get out of here, but we'll be back later today. Make sure you guys follow me on socials, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel with those notifications on as well. So that way, every time we make a video, you can be there as quickly as possible.